No one wants to join a miserable church. No, right? No one wants to join a church that wallows in misery. And the people, as Holy Father said when he first became our Holy Father, how he couldn't understand how people who were leaving Mass, many of them, looked like pickled peppers because they were scowling, and it just came from Mass. They should be floating on air and with ear-to-ear smiles and talking to their neighbors and their brothers and sisters who just celebrated with them, instead of, put on the blinders and have just find your car and get out of that parking lot as quick as possible. I just fulfilled my obligation. That's not the way to do it. So, again, the prayer intention this month by our Holy Father is really for an end to division, an end to anger, animosity, an end to tearing down. We are called to build up. We will have differences, and we will have many differences with many people. But we are called to love as Jesus loved. Jesus said, love your enemies as you love yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to hang out with them all the time. Pray for them. Pray for them. That's the best way to love them. Pray for them, and pray that one day you'll see them in heaven. Not always easy, but you'll see. It'll start to soften your heart and turn your heart of stone into a heart of flesh. All right, my friends, well, I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, we're going to go to the Catechism of the Catholic Church and go to the section on the third commandment, keeping holy the Lord's Day, and keeping with our theme of rediscovering Sunday. So stay where you are, my brothers and sisters. There is more to come on Come to Me. Don't go away.
"60 Seconds" with Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen.
In the history of the world, only one tomb has ever had a rock roll before it and a soldier set to guard it to prevent a dead man from rising. And that was the tomb of Christ on the evening of the Friday called Good. What spectacle could be more ridiculous than armed soldiers keeping their eyes on a corpse? But sentinels were set, lest the dead walk, the silent speak, and the pierced heart quicken to the throb of life. They said he was dead. They knew he was dead. They said he would never rise again. And yet they watched. They remembered that he called his body the temple, and that in 3 days after they had destroyed it, he would rebuild it.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
One of the things that we often think about in our spiritual lives is how to do something big for God. But really, most of the time, we should focus on how we can do something small for God. It's these small things that help us consecrate our ordinary daily activities and help us do everything for Jesus Christ.
Catholic Answers Live.
Heard right here on Domestic Church Media, weeknights at 6.
When you give in to thinking that's ripping you to shreds, that deflates your confidence, that caves into all your fear, you're not just thinking negatively. You're thinking in a way that's unholy. God wants His people to face everyday life, not just redeemed from sin, but with redeemed attitudes, redeemed thinking, a redeemed sense of who they are. Stop beating yourself up between your ears all day. No wonder why you look tired all the time. St. Paul wrote, "We take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ." You should think like someone who believes in a God who created you with purpose, who gives meaning to every experience, even suffering, who bestowed dignity and royalty upon you, and who destined you for eternal glory. And why should you think that way? Because it's all true. So when the way you think builds you up instead of ripping you down, that's not just positive thinking. That's godly and holy thinking. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Father Benedict Groeschel.
There are legitimate differences of opinion in any religion. There are differences of opinion in Catholicism. But in Catholicism, you expect that people will take the teaching of its supreme authority seriously. To go diametrically opposed to those teachings is to not be a Catholic. Someone in the name of Catholicism is sponsoring the destruction of human life, lives of unborn children. And they got the name Catholic on the door. The highest authority in Catholicism and the encyclical Humanae Vitae, Evangelium Vitae, is absolutely clear that no Catholic can support abortion and that Catholics are responsible to take serious action against legalized abortion.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio. The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Every single day, I get to help our listeners of the Sunrise Morning Show wake up, find out what's going on in the church and the world, and then walk with them as we all seek to grow in knowledge and love of Jesus Christ and the Catholic faith. I mean, how could it get any better?
The Sunrise Morning Show with Anna Mitchell and Matt Swain.
Heard right here on Domestic Church Media, weekday mornings at 7.
60 Seconds with Mother Angelica.
It's like the brides, 10 were very, very fervent, and they had oil in their lamp, and they had extra oil. But here were 10 that didn't. They had oil in their lamps, but no extra oil. Here the bridegroom is coming, and those who had just the oil in their lamp all went out. And they said, "Give me some of your oil." And they said, "Hey, we can't, lest we too run out." Now, the first thought in your mind is, they're uncharitable. Why didn't they share, right? I know what you're thinking. I thought the same thing. But see, when we die, my friends, when the bridegroom calls you and me, there's no more time to get oil. You've had 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. You got to repent. You got to go ahead of time and put oil in that lamp.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Well, welcome back on this July 1st, 2021, the beginning of the second half of this year already, on the cusp of the big 4th of July holiday weekend coming up. 4th of July is Sunday, but it's being observed on Monday legally. So I hope you're going to take some time to enjoy it. I think we're allowed to have hot dogs now. Are we allowed to have hot dogs and hamburgers and barbecues in the backyard? I think so. Just again, a quick reminder, tomorrow is First Friday, but because it is the beginning of the holiday weekend, a little bit of a change. Cheryl and I will not be here for Friday Live. We're going to give you 2 hours of music, including some very beautiful patriotic music in there. So you can sit around. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be tomorrow, but if you're just beginning the big holiday weekend, you can have that on in the background. But Bill and George will be here at 6 o'clock with Brothers in Arms, a brand new edition of that program. And the bishop will not be here. He takes hiatus in July and August from the program. But Father Jason asked if he could have the hour because he wants to talk about vocation. So we said, sure. So Father Jason Porzinski will be here tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And he has 2 priest friends who will be his guests. And they're going to talk about vocations. So, and then we'll repeat that as we do with the bishop's program, a Saturday at 4 and Sunday morning at 10 a.m. So you can listen to it then if you don't get a chance to listen to it tomorrow at 3. So we, again, hope you are going to be enjoying your holiday weekend. And then Monday, because it is the observed holiday, we will not be here. And that means Bruce will not be here with Come to the Throne. He'll be back with his wonderful program on July 19th, the third Monday in July. And, again, forgive me for repeating it, but I just can't fathom how quickly this time is going. But, Scripture says that days will be shortened in the end times. In the last days will be shortened. So maybe this, I don't know. Nothing wrong with saying, "Come, Lord Jesus." We've been praying that for 2,000 years. That's our prayer. Once the Lord ascended into heaven, the prayer of the church was, come back. We need you. So we're waiting for that great and glorious day. Nothing to fear, just be in the state of grace, be in friendship with God, and, because you never know. And if not, the great and glorious second coming will occur, but we certainly will have our own transition from this life into the next. And as we get older, like myself, as Father Benedict used to say, you start seeing the lights at the end of the exit ramp. So, you just never know. But we don't fear that. We don't fear that. We shouldn't fear that. One way to ensure that you're on the right path is by keeping the 10 Commandments. So see how I'm going to tie this in now. And today in our catechism teaching, we're going to go to the third commandment, keep holy the Lord's day, keeping with our theme of rediscovering Sundays. So in paragraph 2185 in our catechism, it says, on Sundays and other holy days of obligation, the faithful are to refrain from engaging in work activities that hinder the worship owed to God, the joy proper to the Lord's day, the performance of the works of mercy, and the appropriate relaxation of mind and body. So, I guess it's a matter of how you relax. First of all, we should never do anything that hinders our worship of God on a Sunday. But I know a lot of people, they enjoy doing gardening. It's very relaxing. It kind of puts them in touch with God's beautiful creation, and nothing wrong with that. But we're just reminded that we need to make sure that we are not doing anything in work activities that would hinder our worship owed to God. Family needs or important social services can legitimately excuse from the obligation of Sunday rest. Well, if there's things that have to be done, and it happens to be a Sunday, well, that's a legitimate excuse, depending on what the situation is. The faithful should see to it that legitimate excuses do not lead to habits prejudicial to religion, family, life, and health. Again, if you've been with me, you know that we're reading on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, reading from St. Pope John Paul II's apostolic letter, Dies Domini, on keeping holy the Lord's day. And right now, what we've gone through so far in the beginning of that letter, he talks about Sunday liturgy and the importance of it, why we need it, why we should be, looking forward to going, why we need to receive communion, but he will go beyond that in the letter, and we'll get to that in the next few weeks, about just how to keep Sunday and observe it as a special day, even after Mass. Because I've gotten some very, very lovely comments from some of you about how you remember, as I do, growing up, 50 years ago, that Sunday was different. I still can see my grandfather walking down the street with his brown bag. He had a brown bag of Bazooka bubblegum every time he came to visit on a Sunday. And I think I shared this with you. We lived in Somerset, in central Jersey, in the New Brunswick area. My grandfather lived in Weehawken. And there was a period there for a few years where, not every Sunday, but a good number of Sundays, and I remember them as lovely Sundays, where he would come and spend the day with us. And he would take the bus from Weehawken into New York, get a bus from New York then to New Brunswick, and walk 2 or 3 blocks after the bus dropped him off to our house. And he always had with him a brown bag with Bazooka bubblegum in it. That was the gift, the treat for the children, which explains our teeth. And he was also a smoker. Those days, it wasn't unusual to see ashtrays in the house People smoked. And in fact, you can't see it here, but in my little TV studio behind me, there's an ashtray that my father got when he was in the war in Palermo. And I think that's the ashtray I remember my grandfather using when he was in our house smoking. But there was something, this is going to sound weird. My mom would start cooking after he got back from Mass. You'd smell the sauce and the meatballs, and everything was going, and the house had this wonderful aroma about it. And then my grandfather would come, and he'd watch. He was a big Mets fan, believe it or not. He'd watch the ball game, and he would smoke. And there's something about that smell of cigarette smoke and tomato sauce. I don't smell it anymore because nobody smokes. But it was just it was different. Not that was made, we should be smoking on Sundays, but it was just a different day. It was different. Dinner was at 3 o'clock and or 2:30 in the mid-afternoon, and just a different day. And that's what even in this particular teaching from the Catechism, that we need to take time to relax, to refresh, relax our mind and body, spend time with family. In paragraph 2186, it says, those Christians who have leisure should be mindful of their brethren who have the same needs and the same rights, yet cannot rest from work because of poverty and misery. Sunday is traditionally consecrated by Christian piety to good works and humble service of the sick, the infirm, and the elderly. Well, I'll tell you, another thing I remember doing on Sundays growing up, when my mom's mother was in a nursing home in her last years, Sundays, and I don't believe it was every Sunday, but Sundays, when there were 5 children in my family, we'd get in the car and go to the nursing home, which I believe it or not, I'm going to have to find this out. I think it was in Toms River. I don't know if I'm recalling correctly. Maybe not. I'll have to look on Ancestry.com and find out. But that is a work of service, of charity. But it was a Sunday. And I think because, my father was home from work and there were no other obligations, so we were free and time was there. Then the Catechism says Christians will also sanctify Sunday by devoting time and care to their families and relatives, often difficult to do on other days of the week. Well, it should be. I remember, too, when we had moved into the home that we're in now, and we moved there when the children were elementary school age, and it was Sunday, and we were going to go somewhere, take the kids to the park or something. It was a nice spring Sunday, and the little girl from across the street or a couple houses down came over to introduce herself and invited Angela to go over and play. And I said, well, Sunday's really a family day for us. It's the day we all can come together. You have the rest of the week to do that. And I don't know if, the little girl understood, but I said it very gently. It is a special day that we have together. We want to spend it. And I do remember many Sundays doing things with the children, taking them to the park, going to the zoo. Many, many Sundays going to my parents' house. They so looked forward to that, to going up and see my mother and father and a couple of their cousins and things. That was just a special, special time. Sunday, in paragraph 2186 of our Catechism, says Sunday is a time for reflection, silence, cultivation of the mind, and meditation, which furthers the growth of the Christian interior life. So do we take the time after Mass? We've gone and fulfilled our obligation, and we come home and we don't have to go to work and we have free time. But do we take the time maybe to reflect and cultivate our mind to the things of God? Do we have special activities, prayers we can pray, or reading material? There's plenty of good holy reading material out there. But that's part of what our responsibility is, to further the growth of our Christian interior life. And what better day to do it than on Sunday? And then in paragraph 2187, it says, sanctifying Sundays and holy days requires a common effort. Every Christian should avoid making unnecessary demands on others that would hinder them from observing the Lord's Day. Traditional activities, sports, restaurants, etc., and social necessities, public services, etc., require some people to work on Sundays, but everyone should still take care to set aside sufficient time for leisure. With temperance and charity, the faithful will see to it that they avoid the excesses and violence sometimes associated with popular leisure activities. In spite of economic constraints, public authorities should ensure citizens a time intended for rest and divine worship. Employers have a similar obligation toward their employees. Well, we saw last year, didn't we, when the government, the state government, mandated that houses of worship be closed. Yet they allowed abortion clinics to remain open. But if that didn't exhibit for us the evil behind all of this, I don't know what would. And, there was a time in this state, here in New Jersey anyway, and maybe most other states, I guess, had the blue laws where the stores were not open on Sundays. The necessity, the stores of necessity, maybe a pharmacy, or I'm not even sure about that, but stores were closed. You couldn't sell clothing. There was certain things you couldn't sell, and stores were closed. And maybe, because of our great sophistication, and I say that tongue in cheek, we laugh and scoff at those laws today by today's standards. But you know what? It wasn't a bad idea, was it? Wasn't a bad idea. Saturday was the weekend day, where you did that kind of stuff. Sunday was the day you gave to God. And then in paragraph 2188, in respecting religious liberty and the common good of all, Christians should seek recognition of Sundays and the church's holy days as legal holidays. Well, we should be observing them that way. If not legal holidays, we should be observing them as holidays as best we can. Now, I know some people have to work on Sundays. Unfortunately and sadly these days, because stores are open, because, places of business are open on Sundays, they can't avoid it. I've had people say to me, if I call a service person for something or we have to get something fixed or checked, and they'll say, well, we're available on Sunday. I always say, no, not Sunday. I'm not going to make you work on Sunday. That's just, I don't even take my garbage cans out on Sunday till after it gets dark. Our garbage day is Monday. And I won't take them out till it gets dark. I don't want garbage cans out in front of my house on Sunday. It's Sunday. It's supposed to look nice. When it gets dark, I'll take them out. And that was a quirky thing, but that's just me. So Christians should seek recognition of Sundays and the church's holy days as legal holidays. They have to give everyone a public example of prayer, respect, and joy, and defend their traditions as a precious contribution to the spiritual life of society. And I'm sure many of you in here in New Jersey, especially those of you who live in Monmouth County, Lakewood has a very, very large, and that Lakewood area has a very large Orthodox Jewish population. And if you drive through there on a Saturday, the Sabbath day for the Jewish people, you will see these people walking with their traditional clothing and dress on, probably going to or coming from synagogue, making a very, very obvious and broad public statement. I think it's great. We as Christians are called to do the same, to give everyone a public example of prayer, respect, and joy, and defend our traditions, our Christian traditions, as a precious contribution to the spiritual life of society. We mustn't allow it to be repressed. I think I've told you the story usually around Christmas time. Another little pet peeve of mine are Christian, and especially Catholic, churches, parishes, schools, when they have their holiday bazaars. It drives me nuts. A Catholic church or a Catholic parish or a Catholic school having a holiday bazaar. What holiday? And I remember one time driving many, many years ago to work, and on this street that I would go, there was a synagogue, and then a few blocks down the road on the same street, a Catholic church. And drove by one time, one December, and the sign out in front of the Jewish synagogue was advertising their Hanukkah bazaar. Well, that's good. They're saying Hanukkah. You drive a couple blocks down the street past the Catholic church, and they were having their holiday bazaar. Why can't you say Christmas bazaar? We're called to give witness. You know, we have a beautiful traditional contribution that we make regularly to the spiritual life of society. And we must give public witness to that and not be afraid to exhibit that. The Catechism says, if a country's legislation or other reasons require work on Sunday, the day should nevertheless be lived as the day of our deliverance, which lets us share in this festal gathering, the assembly of the firstborn who are enrolled in heaven. We must celebrate Sunday. We must live the celebration of the day in whatever way we possibly can. Whether it's spending time with family and friends and leisure, and summertime is always, there's a lot more to do in the summertime as far as leisure activities go. You go down the shore, you go to the boardwalk, you just spend time out on the patio with family and friends and have a barbecue, whatever. And then throughout the year, whatever the situation calls for, those nice, cool autumn days and winter days where you cook a roast and invite, your family over for Sunday dinner. I mean, these are the things that we must never let get away. And not for the sake of having Sunday dinner, for the sake that this is a different day. It's a special day. It's a day that we remember because it's the day of our deliverance. It's the day that we come together to remember the Lord's resurrection. Every Sunday is a little Easter. Every Sunday reminds us of what Jesus Christ did for us, to die for us and suffer and die for us, only to rise on that third day, on that first Easter, that we remember every Sunday being that little Easter and rejoicing in our deliverance, rejoicing in his resurrection, rejoicing in the promise he made to us and the hope that we have to also be with him one day in heaven, to defeat sin and death. That's what it is. But if we let all that pass and all that go away, and we have no other interest, and we turn Sunday just into another Saturday, what a shame that would be. So let's remember to do whatever we can to just keep building up Sunday, keep making it a special day, especially young parents with little children, young children. Make them and let them know that it's a different day and how you observe it and how you celebrate it. Okay, I'm going to have to go in just a few moments, but again, tomorrow, my friends, it is First Friday. Cheryl and I will not be here, so I won't be with you again until next Tuesday, but because we're going to have music on tomorrow for a couple of hours for you, since we will not be here at 4 o'clock. But as I said, if you tune in at 3 o'clock, Bishop O'Connell will not be here. He takes a couple months off from the program, but Father Jason Porzinski tomorrow at 3 with a special program on vocations. Bill and George will be here tomorrow afternoon at 6 o'clock with a new edition of Brothers in Arms. And I do pray and hope, and Cheryl and I and all of us here pray and hope that you have a blessed, a happy and holy 4th of July weekend. The 4th of July is on Sunday, so make it a big celebration and thank the Lord for the gift of this country, because if we don't pray for our country, we're going to lose it. Okay, have a great rest of your day. I thank you for being a part of my day. My name is Jim Manfredonia. Thanks for listening. God bless you, and God love you.